The Blackpool Combat Club turns on Bryan Danielson at AEW All Out. There's the latest on a new deal for AEW with Warner Brothers Discovery. A multi-time world champion is close to re-signing with WWE. And there's details on Bret Hart's role on this week's coming Raw. Hello and welcome to WhatCulture Wrestling, the solo Sunday news. Myself, Andrew Pollard. I hope you're well. I hope you're good. I hope your weekend is going fantastic. Mine is because Wrexham beat the Slops from down the road 3-0. Come on the town. Top of the league. Right, let's get into wrestling chatter. And the Blackpool Combat Club, yes, last night, well, kind of the Blackpool Combat Club, whatever this new iteration is, turned on Bryan Danielson last night at AEW All Out. Now, Danielson, of course, was defending his AEW World Championship against Jack Perry. That was a successful defense for the American Dragon. And then after that, you had Christian Cage came out. Well, first of all, Killswitch came out and chokeslammed Bryan. And then Christian Cage came out with his Casino Gauntlet contract, I guess you could call it, to cash in. And that was stopped by Jon Moxley, who kind of just stood there and was like, nah, mate, this is not happening. And then Moxley was joined by Claudio Castagnoli, by Wheeler Yuta, and by Pac, who, of course, is kind of with this group now as well. So then Christian kind of like, yeah, nah, we're cool, we're all right, and kind of like noped out of there. But then Jon Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli turned on Bryan Danielson, and I guess Pac as well, and then Marina Shafir was there as well. Bryce Rensburg took a bump, and then there was the big European uppercut from Claudio to Bryan. Bryan was kind of like, really, dude? Did you just do that? And then Jon Moxley went all Terry Funk and put a plastic bag over the head of Bryan Danielson, which was something I didn't quite expect to see at All Out. But hey, All Out was a very, very violent show. If you like that sort of wrestling, you'll have had a blast with it. If you don't, you probably won't have. But there was a lot of grim stuff going on, because there was, of course, Swerve Strickland and Hangman Adam Page. But yeah, the plastic bag trick was brought out now. What happens with Bryan Danielson from here on out? It's worth noting as well that Wheeler Yuta did not partake in the attack on Bryan Danielson. He was kind of like trying to stop it, but was being held off by Claudio Castagnoli. Pac, like I said, was there. Marina Shafir was there. Moxie was there. So this kind of seems like, I presume they'll probably have another name, but it's like a new iteration of the Blackpool Combat Club with that group, with Mox, with Claudio, with Pac, with Marina Shafir. Of course, Moxie said it's no longer Tony Schiavone's company. Of course, Tony Schiavone, my father, as I get reminded of every time on these Sunday videos. How are you doing, Dad? This for those not familiar, this is a trick that Terry Funk pulled on Ric Flair back at Clash of the Champions 8. Yeah, Clash of Champions 8, back at Fall Brawl 89. Where it was Ric Flair and Sting, when Sting was briefly in the Horsemen. And it was one of those rare times where Sting's like blonde had kind of come out a little bit, so with like brownish hair, but with a little bit of blonde in. It was a really badass look, to be fair. But it was Flair and Sting beating Dick Slater and the Great Muta, with Dick Slater headbutting the referee for a disqualification, which is a bit of a screwy finish. But then Terry Funk, who was supposed to be in the match, came out afterwards, attacked Ric Flair, and then, did the whole plastic bag spot. Ric Flair had to be resuscitated, I think it was at the time. I can't remember how they phrased it. But but from Brian Pillman, had to resuscitate Ric Flair. That was what the angle they were going for at that point in time, which then that led to, it was all part of Ric Flair and Terry Funk from their rivalry across 1989. They'd had matches before, they had matches after that. There was a Halloween Havoc tag match. There was Clash of Champions 9 and I Quit match where Ric Flair beat Terry Funk. But that all, part of that was the plastic bag spot, and that was what we had at All Out last night. Now, speaking of All Out, after the pay-per-view, of course, Tony Khan had his press scrum, his media scrum, whatever you can call it, press conference. A slightly shorter one because he had to be off for NFL duties. But he did talk about the ongoing discussions with Warner Brothers Discovery to keep AEW programming on TNT and TBS. And it sounds like it's nearly there, but it's not quite there. As Tony Khan put it, very close, very exciting negotiations with WBD. He also said, I think it's safe to say, I believe AEW is here to stay on TNT and TBS. And I think that's true for a very long time. And I believe it. I've not put pen to paper. I'm still working on things. When he was asked then about how, percentage-wise, how close things are, he said 90%. So it sounds like, AEW is going to be renewing with WBD. These are the discussions that have been going on for a good while now. And it sounds like they're very close to being formally agreed upon. But switching gears from AEW to WWE, because why not? It's a Sunday. We can talk about all kinds of things. Let us know in the comments what you want to talk about. Hey, what do you want to talk about? I'm going to Cody Rhodes. That's the caffeine talking. But yeah, from AEW to WWE and Sheamus. Yes, Sheamus, it's one of those where yesterday Phil Chambers and Gareth Morgan brought news that Shayna Baszler had re-signed with WWE. Contracts have been quite the talking point for the last, basically this whole of this year, it feels like. There was questions over who was going to re-sign, blah, 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 with WWE. Drew McIntyre re-signed, Seth Rollins re-signed, Finn Balor, Chad Gable, Angel, Humberto. Becky Lynch did not, and is technically still a free agent. Of course, Ricochet did not and is now in AEW. And now there's word from PW Insider that Sheamus is the latest person whose contract is in discussions. And he is close, much like AEW is close to re-signing with WBD. Sheamus is supposedly close to re-signing with WWE. Now this, Sheamus, bear in mind, he's 46 years of age, been with WWE since 2007, I think it was, he started in developmental. So that'd be 17 years, which is crazy to think about. That makes me feel so old. But yeah, PW Insider reports that the deal on the table is it's a long-term one between 3 to 5 years. So Sheamus is going to be sticking around, all being well, for a good old while, and maybe, just maybe, during that time he can win the Intercontinental Championship, because this is someone who's a 4-time world champion. Won the Royal Rumble, won the King of the Ring, 3-time US champ, 5-time tag champ with Cesaro, Claudio. But so far has not won, I think, won Money in the Bank as well, of course, but has not won that Intercontinental title. Now, if it's me, I'm going with that's where I'm going, WrestleMania 41. With, I think you could do Bron Breakker and Sheamus, and that would be one hoss fight. Big meaty men slapping meat, yes, and I will be all here for that. So Sheamus, again, like the AEW Warner Brothers Discovery news, it's not a done deal yet, but it's said to be close. Which, I mean, Sheamus these last few years, man, it's just become this kind of beloved babyface, renowned for putting on, no pun intended, but bangers, banger after banger after banger. You get the idea. But yeah, Sheamus always has fun matches, man, and he just beats the piss out of whoever he's wrestling, and he will happily take it back, and I'm here to see that. Right, one last news story, and I have to talk about this because, hey, I'm a Bret Hart guy. He's literally right there staring at me, right behind there. Not him, it's a picture of him, but right there. A nice little sign photo of when I had the pleasure of meeting the Hitman, the Excellence of Execution. And Bret Hart is going to be on Raw tomorrow night, this coming Monday. And there's a few more details now about what he may be doing, because before this, Triple H has just said that Bret Hart's return is something you definitely do not want to miss. Now, Raw takes place from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I had to correct a friend of mine yesterday, Biff, if you're watching, do better. He just said Calgary, and I had to no, mate, it's Calgary, Alberta, Canada. You have to go with the 3. It's like an unwritten rule of professional wrestling. But yeah, Raw is taking place from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Bret Hart, according to PW Insider, what his role is on Raw is believed to be doing something with the World Heavyweight Champion, Gunther. Now that gets me excited, because Gunther is, you could tell me that Gunther is the best professional wrestler in the world today, and I would not argue. He's in that conversation. Whether he's your style of wrestler or not, he's in that conversation. There's Ospreys in that conversation. Bryan Danielson is still in that conversation all these years later, and Gunther is another name that is is in that conversation. Now, of course, Bret Hart is not a massive Gunther fan. That's pretty much the only thing I think me and Bret ever disagree on. Is Gunther's really good, man. But yeah, because he doesn't like the overuse of chops. I mean, Bret Hart throughout his whole career has talked about, and after his career, has always talked about how he thought chops were daft. I think when he wrestled Ric Flair, there was a rule where Ric Flair could chop him once, and that was it, because Bret thinks chops are a bit daft. And obviously Gunther has one hell of a meaty chop, as we've seen many poor fools' chests reduced to mincemeat, to burger meat, at the hands of the Ring General. So Bret Hart, by all accounts, is going to be doing something with Gunther. And that makes me, puts a smile on this face. My favorite wrestler of all time, with probably my favorite wrestler of today, in the ring, in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. As the kids say, we're eating well. Also, I'd imagine, this is not related to this, but I'd imagine Natalya returns on Raw, because again, where Raw is taking place, we saw Lyra Valkyria mentioned teased last week, bringing a tag team partner for her and Selena Vega against Sonya Deville, Zoe Stark, Shayna Baszler, and I'd imagine it just makes all the sense in the world for Natalya. That was someone else whose contract status was up in the air a little bit earlier in the year, but is believed to have re-signed with WWE, obviously. But that is about it, right? This has been, continue your YouTube journey, actually, I should say, to quote the great Phil Chambers. This has been the Soul Sunday News here, myself, Andrew Pollard, at WhatCulture Wrestling. Have a great rest of your day. Town are going up, ole ole.